finally gets to see my face after like centuries. Finally, right? Anyways, for some warnings going up in these motherfucking chapters, because it's gonna get intense. I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna get intense. So first, I would like to definitely mention there will be mentions of hallucinations and kind of difficult wrapping around what's real and what's not type of deal here. Second, there will be mentions of a lot of violence, murder, and just a lot of blood caked everywhere. This is creepypasta, okay? Creepypasta. Number 3, there will be mentions of child abuse. There will be mentions of just childhood trauma all around. 4, there will be mentions of kidnapping and kind of just kidnapping and murder. That's kind of the same as I believe the second or third warning I gave you guys, but I'm going to put that anyway, because why not? Okay, so I guess this kind of should be a warning, but for number 5 or 6, there should be a warning about acceptance. Now, this is like kind of breakdown of all these warnings combining together, and then popping out is acceptance. All these warnings combining it together, we will get popped out acceptance. So yeah, that's kind of the main thing. But anyways, y'all have been warned. Hello everybody, so today we're going to be reading Pandemic X Virus X Listener Up in Here. So we're currently in chapter 23, but for right now we are in chapter 22 because of the recap. So let's get straight into the recap. So, a little bit of explanation before we go on, because it's going to get a little confusing if I just go straight on from the chapter. Alright, so for a little bit of background of this, basically, Cody killed his stepdad. It's his stepdad. Basically, if you guys have been through the series and watching and listening through this whole series, y'all know how terrible Cody's stepdad is and how he was a drug addict, and he was just a terrible stepdad in general. He just deserves to rot in hell in general. He finally killed him. At the same time, while having problems with 17, which was a imaginary person that kind of is getting into like going more and more, making Cody kind of go a little bit more, I would say a little bit more hallucinogenic. I'm going to say that. I'm going to keep it to that. And basically, they started like kind of making up after, like during this ride, because Cody decided to take his stepdad's, or his test subject, pathetic pickup truck, quote unquote, and was worried about it because some stuff was broken. Seats were just terrible condition. I don't know how he even survived getting into the car, looking at it in the first place, because Cody's very clean man. And he just kind of went with it, because 17 is like, it's okay as long as you keep driving as perfectly good as you can. No cop will stop you, because yeah, he had like the body in the back seat. So yeah, I know. And they started talking, and at this point telling Cody that, hey, this is not a good test subject. It's the same thing as the girl that had an eating disorder. And I was like, I kind of agree with that. And then Cody was like, slowly but surely starting to agree with that, because 17 was actually kind of right. And he was just overly thinking of himself over here. And then he said that his main inspiration is YN. And they weren't the initial reason at first for creating the first strain of the virus. But he felt like he needed to turn things up a bit with the second virus he's making. And and Cody was kind of like talking about like how he was mad, he wanted to do this, he wanted to do that, etc. And then Cody finally responded to 17. He was like, I guess you're kind of right. And 17 continued talking. He was like, okay. And then he was like, this man is nasty as hell. And then Cody's like, nasty bitch. Because let's be honest, the stepdad probably didn't take a shower, especially where he found him at, which was at a drug house, I believe it is. And Cody's like, it's not really about science anymore, is it? Because whatever. And 17's like, yeah, no one will miss him though. Thank goodness we got rid of something ugly. Ew. And then telling him that his experiment might not be like fully accuratable, especially since it's not really a healthy person. It's a person that took drugs for most of their life and has a lot of malnutrition and other problems. And Cody was like, well, so be it, right? Anyways, back to us. We arrived at Cody's house, disheveled, like kind of having a mental breakdown. Seeing Coco. Coco was just kind of ignoring us at this point. Straight up, we just wait for him. Started overthinking, kind of like straight up having just about almost a panic attack to me. And before we get to that like point where we just start breaking down everything, we heard, someone coming out to the door and trying to unlock it. Turns out it was Cody. As soon as Cody opened the door, we were like, oh my God. We just went to him, started like rambling, scared, and then he started comforting us, telling us that we can stay as long as we want, that he'll help us out, being the BFF or, close relationship that secretly both of them want. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. That is super cute. But after Cody left, 17 suddenly emerged. Now, keep in mind, 17 now is at a much older. He's not 17 anymore. The 17 changed his age to 26. Can't remember, but it's near Cody's age now. And he just emerged out of nowhere. We can see 17 now. And he's like, hi. I'm finally glad we're able to interact. I've got so much to tell you. And that scares me. There's a lot of theories going around. There's a lot. But we shall find out right now. Because this is chapter 23. And it says answers. And you know what? I think we all deserve answers around here. Because Lord knows we need it, Alright. Chapter 23. Answers. Your eyes narrowed in curiosity and confusion as you stared at the man before you. What did he mean by finally we're able to interact? Additionally, the way that he came to be, almost as if he was materialized out of thin air before your very eyes, simply wasn't natural. Something about him was wrong and defied everything that you've come to learn and know at this point. But for some reason, he still managed to come across as real, believable, and relatable. Who are you? You eventually decided to ask, even though the way you truly wanted to phrase your words was, what are you? 17. The man merely answered nonchalantly as he brushed some of his light blonde bangs out of his gray eyes. I'm sorry? You started a bit in your bewilderment. I don't understand what you mean by that. 17. The man repeated with a somewhat sassy roll of his eyes this time. That's my name, Cody. For whatever obscure reason, still unknown to me, decided to name me 17 when he created me. Glad to know he got a bit better with naming his creations. He then looked at you expectingly, almost as if he was anticipating you to pick up on some type of implication. Yet you were just left just as dumbfounded as his cryptic explanation as you had started out. What do you mean by his creations? You asked, eyes glancing up the stairs towards the closed bathroom door on the second floor where Cody was currently behind. The sound of the shower running greeted your ears, and you breathed a sigh of relief. You weren't sure why, but you felt that Cody would not want this conversation to transpire between you and 17. 17's gaze followed your own before fixating on the bathroom door as well. If you're worried about Cody overhearing our conversation, it's inevitable. He knows everything we have said, or saying now, and will say in the future. He just doesn't want to accept it right now. 17 let out a small snort of laughter as he considered Cody. That guy is delusional. Will you start making sense? You growled, starting to grow a bit frustrated with 17 and thus far tremendously unhelpful explanation. Do I have to spell it out for you? 17 retorted sarcastically as he sent a knowing smirk your way. You glared at him, yet didn't answer, even though the delivery of his words were condescending, patronizing, and irritating to no end. They still held valuable information. All right, then, 17 agreed, crossing his arms across his chest as he leaned against the wall. You had decided to sit yourself down on the bottom step of the staircase, fully prepared for what could most likely become a lengthy and concise conversation. Maybe you have noticed by this point, but Cody isn't exactly the most stable person around, mentally and emotionally speaking. 17 began, and you nodded in agreement. He has trouble relating to people and as well as maintaining meaningful personal relationships, and he trusts no one. A lot of this is probably the result of a troubled upbringing. Basically, the guy was abused as a child and bullied at school. But, as you know, he is only human. And being human, he needs some type of positive interaction, even if he has to make it up. That's when we step in. I'm not real, YN. Neither are you. We never existed in the physical realm. Cody made us when he needed us the most. I act as a voice of reason for Cody. I help him to understand himself and his feelings, and through me, he can work out problems that he encounters. He channels self-advice through me, but in his mind, it sounds like I'm the one delivering it. That's my role. 17 took a moment to pause and allow the information to really sink in. Your eyebrows furrowed in slight confusion as you considered your circumstances. For some reason, though, you didn't really feel upset about it. Instead, it was more along the lines of you coming to terms with your existence and feeling a sense of comfort at the fact that a purpose, a role, had finally been bestowed upon you. It was actually quite a nice feeling, knowing that you were here for and your meaning in the grand scheme of things. Shall I continue? 17 invited, and you nodded slowly. You suppose that this was another extension of 17's role, the voice of reason. Everything just made sense when he put abstract concepts into words. I suppose you'd like to know your purpose, 17 mused. 17 made you when he was only a child, at a time in his life when he felt to him that the world was crumbling at his feet. In fact, you were his first creation, but you were underdeveloped, and Cody was so desperate for a friend that when he saw you, he really believed that you were real. So he never tried to manipulate your actions or surroundings. This allowed you to develop a personality and motivations of your own, in a sense. 17 paused to let out a small laugh. It's actually kind of funny how he never even noticed. There are a few more times throughout his life where when he unconsciously conjured you up again. And even though he got older, he was still unable to look past his delusions. The mind is a powerful thing, especially when one is so undeniably lonely. Why now, though? You murmured. You said that I just popped up when he needed me, but I'm assuming that those interactions never really lasted for long. How come I'm so prominent now? Because Cody is growing older, 17 commented. And when he's he's starting to need the type of support that you provide. Someone comforting, stable, and accepting. I can reason with him, but you're the only one that can actually really calm him down. He's tied to the intellectual portion of his mind to me, and the emotional side to you. He needs both of us, just for constructing reasons. It's kind of the same by how people get different needs met in different types of relationships. I'm still confused, though. You admitted, and 17 nodded in an indication for you to ask any question that surfaced to your mind. This doesn't really explain how I was able to talk to Jossy or Roxy or even Damien. How come I had an internet presence that just mysteriously vanished? Hey now, one question at a time. 17 snickered, and you murmured quick words of apology before once looking towards him for answers. Your interactions with those people never happened. Like I said, Cody never fully realized that you don't really exist. So you never had the ability to follow him around wherever he went, or just to be in his environment like I do. Cody knows I'm just a figment of his imagination, but he doesn't know that you're not real. So his mind puts you in places, in situations that make sense to him. So, my friendship with Jossy and the conversations that we had, Cody just made them all up? You asked? And 17 nodded in response. And that meeting with Roxy, Damien's party. Yeah, 17 confirmed. Like I said, the mind is powerful. It has the ability to fill in the blanks when we don't know what else to think. Cody unconsciously decided that you had a science class. It was all too easy to imagine you as a student in the class that he was a TA for. When he was in class, he physically saw a girl sitting by herself at the table and mentally put you next to her. I'm not sure why he chose her, but for some reason, he decided that she should be your friend. Of course, being a TA to the class, he learned her name and through a bit of social media searching, discovered she had a boyfriend and the two were throwing a party that Friday evening. And then boom, he put you at the party too. And he walked in on her bashing in her boyfriend's brains and saw the bruises on her neck. It was easy for him to put two and two together. Obviously, the guy was abusive, and he put you in that situation as well. He saw you protecting her from her abuser, even though in reality, she's the one who eliminated him. Something that he wished someone would have done for him when he was being abused. So, what now? You whispered, closing your eyes in an attempt to come to terms with what really was your non-existent reality. Cody is slowly coming to the realization that you are like me. 17 continued to oblige you with answers, but he's still not fully aware. Your internet presence, once again completely imagined by Cody, disappeared as he became more accepting of his illusions. Although, I do think that unless Cody doesn't fully realize you as what you are, you won't have the freedom to remove about his reality like I can. He'll continue to put you in situations where he truly needs you until he accepts that you are nothing but a fantasy. Once he comes to this conclusion, I suppose you'll more or less become like me. And it's only then that we can truly help him. Actually, there's something I do need your help with. Help you with what? You asked, and jumped a bit as you heard the ever-persistent noise of the shower coming to a halt. Cody would be out soon. Don't worry about him. 17 waved off your concerns and returned your attention back on him. Cody has a bit of an obsession due to his past trauma. He's become an absolute germaphobe. Germs, dirt, and disease terrify him. Ironically, he likes to play around with viruses and create diseases. He's the cause of the pandemic, by the way. Excuse me, but what the... Cody can't truly be happy in this state. Nothing will ever satisfy him, though. I think logically he knows that he can't eradicate all germs, but the preventive measures that he takes is a bit extreme. 17 cut you off as if he didn't just keep unloading surprise after surprise. I've been tending to his logical side, but logic can only take me so far. I need you to work on his emotions and mentality. Just as you were about to respond, the door to the bathroom swung open. Cody was now finished with his shower. As you heard him bouncing towards the stairs, the figure of 17 slowly began to dissolve. Like I said, Cody is aware of our conversation. After all, it all happened deep within his own subconscious. But that's all it is right now, subconsciousness. I trust that you'll find a way to help him understand what's real and what's not. Okay. So, we found out what actually the hell we are. So we are just plain ass of the fucking delusion. We don't even exist. And damn Jossy, she beat her boyfriend's ass. Good for her. I'm glad she's hopefully in a safer place now. But damn, that is crazy. Next chapter. I want to know more about this. Ooh, so excited. All right. We are in chapter 24, Deceptions. Cody was more than content to spend the rest of the day with YN. Mostly they attended to quiet activities such as watching TV together on the couch, to which Cody had inevitably taken a nap only after 15 minutes into the show that they were watching. He supposed that he couldn't be blamed. He had been awake for the entire night before, as well as all the previous day. It didn't help that Wine continued to soothingly run her fingers through his hair upon allowing the back of his head to drop into her lap. It was all too easy for his eyes to flutter closed at the subduing sensation of her fingertips lightly brushing against his scalp as his strands of brown hair slipped through her fingers again and again and again. This was another thing that he had always wanted, yet never had the luxury of having for as long as he could remember. Someone to soothe him to sleep. Yet, it wasn't like he slept all day. For reasons quite unknown to him, Wine kept gravitating towards the basement door. A few times he had caught her jiggling the doorknob, even though it always remained firmly locked. He wondered what her sudden fixation towards the basement was, but for obvious reasons he wouldn't allow her there under any circumstances. He was just glad that the doorknob continued to be a barrier for her, even though it would probably become a bit concerning once night had fallen and it was time to move subject H4B to the isolation room. He only hoped that she would be content to fall asleep after dinner. Not dinner. The day continued to pass on, though. It was mostly relaxing. After cooking together a delicious dinner and promptly cleaning up the kitchen, Wine had let out a stretch. That was fun cooking dinner together, Cody. I've never had fried rice before that wasn't taken out, she commented. I've managed to perfect the recipe. Cody grinned in return as he pushed his glasses back up his nose. The trick is getting the exact ratio of soy sauce to the sesame oil. But yeah, it's managed to become my absolute favorite meal. Well, it's certainly rising up in my ranks. Wyan laughed along. Yet Cody could tell while her laugh was genuine, there was something else on her mind. Her eyes momentarily fiddling towards the hallway, which harbored the door to the basement, only confirmed his suspicions. For the tiniest of seconds, the outline of her figure began to flicker. Cody blinked in surprise and even went as far as to remove his glasses and rub his eyes in a tiny bit of disbelief. And upon doing so, her outline appeared once again to him to be whole, solid, and real. Strange. Almost as if on cue, Wyan let out a yawn, and it was hard for Cody to mask his somewhat triumphant grin. Glancing towards the window and the ever-diminishing light of day, as time had passed itself over to the evening, it was almost time for him to move subject H4B, meaning that he really needed Wyan to become sleepy soon. How convenient. Getting tired? Cody asked lightly, and what he hoped sounded somewhat nonchalant. I guess I am, Wyan admitted. I didn't take a nap today like you did. Cody laughed as well, before looking upon her frame with a spark of concern in his eyes. For some reason, he knew that, much like himself, she had a sleepless night. It was amazing that she was able to keep herself going all day long as well, and solely for his benefit at that. While her companionship was something that he absolutely needed and appreciated throughout the day, he didn't want her to sacrifice her sleep on his behalf either. Maybe it's time for bed, Cody suggested, grabbing onto her hand lightly and pulling towards the staircase. Unfortunately for him, however, he would be forced to pass by the basement door on the way to the stairs, and he could only hope that Wyan would ignore it. Despite his hopes and much to his displeasure, Wyan's feet came to a halt as they passed by the basement door, almost causing Cody to topple over at the sudden stop and their fingers to momentarily separate. What's wrong? Cody dared himself to ask, even though his ultimate goal was to keep Wyan away from the basement at all cost. What's behind that door? Wyan asked with a strangely dull expression on her face as her eyes stared blankly towards the door. Her voice was monotonous and void of anything warm. It canceled out all the things that made her who she was. A blank slate, and nothing more but a wisp of the wind as her outline once again began to flicker. Cody wasn't sure why, but the mere sight of her looking so blank caused his heart rate to increase. For once, she wasn't acting in his best interest. I don't think I've ever been in there, and it's locked. Nothing important. Cody attempted to lie his way out of the situation as he grabbed her hand again. Upon the physical contact, Wyan's eyes almost seemed to tear themselves away from the door, and her outline became all the more steady. A light, warm, and most importantly, familiar smile grazed her face. Cody let out a sigh of relief. It's just the basement. I store stuff down there. It's dusty and damp, though, so I don't really like going in there. I keep the door closed because I don't want Coco to go down there either. I see. Wyan merely hummed quietly, although the trace of curiosity was still present behind her words. Cody couldn't help but know that this would not be the end of this conversation, and that she didn't fully believe him. That this was disappointing, because he needed her to trust him. Anyway, let's go upstairs. We should get some sleep, she suggested as her feet began to move again. But this time, she was the one leading him up the stairs and towards the upstairs bedroom that they had shared only 2 nights ago. That one night that seemed so far away at this point, considering all of the events that had transpired between now and then. As much as Cody knew that she was right and that he could really do with a bit more sleep, he had some matters that he needed to attend to. After all, it wasn't like he was able to slip subject H4B sedatives for much longer. Allowing her to lead him up the stairs, he figured that he would simply stay with her until she drifted off. And then he would get back up and attend to his duties, considering how conveniently tired she appeared. He assumed that it wouldn't take her all that long to fall asleep. Her current sleepiness is a bit convenient, isn't it, Cody? 17's voice hissed in his ear, even if the soldier wasn't physically present at the moment. How come she always knows just what you need? Cody blocked him out, even when 17 continued to chide him and mutter that he couldn't really well ignore for a reason forever. 17 was wrong. Wyan didn't always know what he needed. If she did, she would have gotten jealous when Cody had waved his date with Roxy in front of her face. She wouldn't be so obsessed with the basement door. 17's implications that Wyan wasn't who he thought she was starting to get on his nerves. Wyan was a human being and was a separate entity from him. The mere suggestion of her somehow just knowing what he needed was preposterous. There we go. Reaching the bedroom, Cody didn't hesitate to climb into bed with her and gather her up in his arms. He smiled in peace and serenity, I guess, as he softly trailed the tips of his fingers up and down her arm, causing the little hairs to stand on end at the comforting sensation, and even a couple of goosebumps to travel up and down her spine. Maybe Wyan didn't know everything he needed, but that was okay, because somehow she had managed to fulfill his needs anyway. She always did. Cody steered her face towards his tenderly as he observed her eyes beginning to shut in their tiredness. He felt the same sensation of his own eyelids starting to grow heavy as he boldly pressed his lips against hers. Somehow, he just knew that she would reciprocate towards such an action. She smiled lightly against his lips before turning the sweet and romantic gesture, putting him completely and absolutely at ease. The moment was purely perfect. Wow. When she had drifted off to sleep, Cody spent a few minutes simply basking in the glory of her in his arms. She felt so perfect and still there, almost as if she belonged there. Letting out a shallow breath through his nose, he pressed his lips against her forehead for the final time before getting up, being very careful to wiggle himself out of the covers and pull his arms from under her head, which was currently acting as a makeshift pillow. Now that she was asleep and comfortable, he would get back to work. It was a good thing that she showed up right when she did. He had her back now, meaning that he also had to fully concentrate on his work with a fresh, clear mind and a calm attitude. Exiting the room with a newfound prance in his step, he bounced down the stairs 2 at a time in a quickened pace, more than ready to accomplish his task at hand. Jumping at the final few steps, he landed on the wooden floor at the foyer with a thud, yet miraculously managed to stay on his feet. Somewhere to his right, 17 scoffed, the figure of the soldier materializing before him again. Cody let out a noise of ridicule of his own. "Would you quit doing that?" "Doing what?" 17 asked in mock innocence, pushing himself off the wall that he was leaning against. "Just appearing like that. It's annoying," Cody said with an expressionless look crossing his face. "I'm the annoying one?" 17 laughed a bit as he spoke. "You're the one who's rushing down the stairs like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. What's got you so happy, huh?" "None of your business." Cody grinned slyly, causing 17 to raise an eyebrow, but offer no verbal response in return. "Anyway, come on, let's do this. I'm interested to see how subject H4A is holding up anyway." "I guess it is dark enough," 17 commented, gray eyes shifting towards the window as he spoke. "Even little Miss Noisy Nancy across the street shouldn't be able to tell what you're doing, even if she's sticking her ugly nose in between her front curtains like she normally does." Cody laughed at 17's phrasing and headed towards one of many doors in his house, the one leading to the garage, where he parked the pickup truck. After all, he didn't own a car, so a random old beat-up down pickup truck suddenly appearing in his driveway would certainly look suspicious to the neighbors, especially Nosy Nancy, or whoever 17 had chosen to describe her. Cody wasn't even sure her real name was Nancy or not, but he supposed that it didn't matter in the end. Wrenching open the garage door, he made a beeline for the pickup, making a mental note to drive that cursed vehicle to the nearest junkyard the second the opportunity had arose, where it would be properly disposed of. While he seriously doubted that anyone would report subject H4B to be missing, he certainly didn't need any evidence sitting right in the middle of his garage. Yanking open the car door next, Cody gazed in distaste upon the still unconscious form of his newest subject. The injection wounds had accumulated on the subject from the many dosages of sedatives mixed quite well with the wounds that had already been present due to all of the drugs that had been previously pumped through its body. Grimacing, I would be too. Cody applied several layers of medical gloves before grabbing his subject from underneath the armpits and forcefully beginning to drag it out of the truck, not really caring when its body fell harshly against the garage floor. The cab of the truck sat at a considerable height above the floor, and Cody couldn't be expected to support all of that weight over such a height. Could he? Don't break it. 17 advised with a smirk as he stood in the doorway that led back to the main part of the house. "Aren't you gonna help?" Cody muttered under his breath as he began to lug the subject out of the garage and towards the basement. In response, 17 shook his head in the negative. "Why don't you get your girlfriend to help you out?" he suggested, only to receive a death glare in response from Cody. "She will never know anything of this." Cody finally decided to oblige 17 with an answer as he continued to drag his subject down the stairs to the basement, After unlocking the door, of course. What would you say if I told you I've already told her? 17 asked, as he followed Cody and his subject down the stairs. Bullshit, she can't see you. You don't exist. Are you sure about that? Just as 17 had uttered those words, the sounds of footsteps outside of the basement door hit Cody's ears, and he froze as he listened. The footsteps, while light and soft, grew only louder until they stopped right outside the basement door. Dropping his subject entirely, Cody took up the stairs 2 at a time, and 17 shoved 17 out of his way. Pausing in front of the basement door, he attempted to peer under the tiny crack of space that was made where the door ended and the floor began. Luckily, he saw no shadow of a figure standing there, nor did he see a pair of feet. Just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he jumped about a mile out of his skin as he heard a knock on the door, as well as a muffled sound of a voice calling out to him. Cody? No. No. Why did that sound like... Surely it wasn't. Pulling the door open with all of his might without thinking of the potential consequences, Cody's green eyes were met with nothing. The hall was just as empty and dark as he had left it. No one was there. Turning around, Cody's eyes searched for the staircase for 17, more than prepared to chew him out, but 17 wasn't there either. No one was there, except his subject. No one. He was alone. Damn. That is so sad. Also, side note, if you find a recruited reference, kudos to you. Anyways, damn. We are in chapter 25, Delusions. Whew. Body trembling lightly and immediately losing the vigor that once had fueled the extra bounce in his step, Cody shook his head violently and desperately wished to scratch at his head in discomfort. Although he refrained from actually doing so once he remembered the medical gloves that adorned his bony hands. Of course, he didn't want any germ that might have been living on his subject's greasy body to become entangled within his hair. He had the unrealistic image of a bright green slimy germ nuzzling into the skin of his scalp, worming its way into his body and coursing through his bloodstream. Insinuating a cough, a fever, or an upset stomach, his stomach contents gurgled at the mere thought, tossing and turning about in his abdomen like a boiling hot sludge. Cody fought back the small amount of bile that began to rise up his throat at the purely psychological sensation, his very few fears causing him to grow physically ill. Fighting the urge to retch, Cody made his way back down the stairs to where he had carelessly left his subject laying, not even finding the will to lug it down the rest of the stairs the way he had been previously. He opted to kick it down the remainder of the stairs instead. It took a few tries, but with one final kick and a massive grunt from Cody's end, he managed to send his subjects toppling down the bottom half of the stairs. He thought that he may have heard the sound of a bone cracking, and upon further observation, it was easy to note that the subject's arm was bent in an unnatural angle underneath it. Yet, Cody had supposed that he didn't really care. 17 had yet to show his face, while Cody had no other option but to proceed to drag the subject further into his lab. However, he knew 17 was just watching him and listening to him. 17 knew everything about him and what he was doing, and even what he was thinking, for he was always in Cody's mind, even if Cody couldn't see him. If I know, then so does she. 17 hissed in Cody's ear. She just has yet to realize it, just like you. Once you do, though, nothing, not even this, will be a secret anymore. Cody squeezed his eyes shut in response, no longer possessing the mental power to insist that 17 was wrong. After all, since when has 17 ever been wrong before? 17 was also always right and never lied to him. So why would he be wrong or untruthful about this? No, Cody's voice cracked as he scrambled to pull off his gloves. His long fingers tangled themselves into his hair, and at long last he began to scratch as his expression furrowed into one of pain, sorrow, and dismay. She's real. She's real. Cody's hopelessness pleas were cut short as the sound of grunting and groaning began to ring throughout the room. Snapping his head in attention towards the noise, it was easy to note that the sedative was finally beginning to wear off, and his subject was stirring. Ugh. The subject moaned in misery as an attempt to pick itself up from the floor. Unfortunately, subject H4B, though, it had tried to support its body weight with the arm that was broken, for it instantly crippled against the floor in its agony, letting out a pained shout as it did so. Cody scrambled to collect his bearings. He had to remain professional and businesslike whilst dealing with his subjects. Of course, he wouldn't show any shroud of emotion or humanity, for that would mess up his research. As far as he was concerned, any room for emotion left room for silly mistakes and errors in the scientific process. And this was just something that he was not willing to risk. All right. I guess. He thought that it would be okay. He thought that he would have been able to keep his cool head about him, even though he had extremely negative history with subject H4B. And for a while, he was even able to do so when he had Wine's support. But now, as he had been inkling of doubt, and even the slightest question concerning Wine at all and what her reality even was, how could he approach anything calmly? How could he even begin to think things through? How could he do what he needed to be done in such a state of uncertainty? He couldn't. He needed her. He needed YN, but she was real, right? Certainly she wouldn't come if he called her out to her from all the way down here. She wouldn't be able to hear him. She was all the way up on the second floor, sleeping soundly in his bed. He made sure of it. You need her, don't you? 17 whispered, egging him on. He's here for you, you know. Subject H4B tried once again to get up, and its eyes focused in on Cody. What the fuck is going on? It demanded in a voice that cracked horrendously from the lack of use and dehydration. Cody, where the hell did you bring... Don't you fucking use my name. Like, put some respect on my name. Just kidding. Don't fucking use my name. Cody snapped as his face twisted into one of pure rage. You're nothing. Nothing. You don't even get to speak to me, you vile piece of shit. I will end you. And then I'll end your god-awful whore of a wife. I'll kill you. I'll kill her. I'll kill you all. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Rushing out of the still open door that led from his lab to the basement, Cody had snatched a baseball bat that had been laying nearby. After all, he wasn't completely lying to Wine when he had told her what he used the basement before. He did, in fact, use it for storage. Slinging his baseball bat over his shoulder darkly, he remembered it quite well and found it to be rather fitting for the current circumstances. All right. This is, I think this is a memory. Yep, I think this is a memory. So, be prepared, everyone. Be prepared. Cody, I'm here to take you away from this place. The curvy woman in an attractive and finely pressed business suit had explained to him as she gently placed a dark-skinned hand on his shoulder. She used her other hand to tuck a strand of short black hair behind her ear, and Cody couldn't even fail to catch a glimpse of her shiny and expensive-looking earrings. Where are we going? Cody asked in curiosity. Even though he was only 10 years old at this point, he was used to his mother and Roger sending him off to places with strange people. At first, he was admittedly opposed to getting into a vehicle with another babysitter, as they'd like to put it, but eventually he got used to it. While a lot of the people he had to go off to were certainly sketchy looking, they had never actually done anything to him. Yet this one was so ridiculously, I don't even want to say the word anymore, different from anyone he had ever went with before, Cody couldn't help but wonder if something was up. "I'm here to take you someplace safe," she answered kindly with a small and comforting smile playing across her lips. Cody seriously doubted that any such place actually existed. Most likely anywhere was better than here. Quietly, the woman handed him a few boxes and bags. "Let's go up to your room and pack up your things, okay?" Agreeing to the woman's suggestion and climbing up the stairs, Cody placed his feet down on the creaky wooden stairs as quietly as he was able, as to not make any noise. This was a habit they had picked up quite a while ago, in an attempt to not alert his mother or Roger of his presence. His silent footfalls greatly contrasted with the loud and ear-splitting clicking sounds of heeled shoes of the woman. Cody noted the way that woman had clicked her tongue in disapproval and her head in sympathy as they had passed piles of trash. She even let out a shriek of alarm as a particularly large cockroach had crossed their path. Cody was used to it by this point, as much as he despised it. Entering his room, Cody quickly got to work with loading up his items into boxes, which unsurprisingly was not that much. Inside the box, he packed his small collection of clothing, a few of his favorite toy cars, and his ultimate prized possession, a small stuffed cat they had affectionately given the name Coco. Coco kept him warm at night, and was a comforting thing to hug while the yells and screams of his mother and Roger got a bit carried away at night. "Oh," the lady observed as she picked up a baseball bat that was standing propped up in the corner of his bed. "Do you play baseball? Why don't you bring this along too?" Cody eternally grimaced, yet this didn't let his distaste for the object show. Roger had once beat him senseless with it when he was 9, walloping him in the gut several times and causing him to vomit. He had bruises decorating his arms and legs for weeks due to that thing, and it hurt him even more for almost a week. Of course, this was the week where he had to run a mile in gym class with the rest of his class, and had become a laughing stock at the school when he wasn't able to finish. To make a long story short, he hated that bat. The only reason Cody had decided to keep it next to his bed was so he could use it as a weapon if he ever needed to. Just as he was about to refuse, a voice called out to him. That was strange. Cody had never heard a voice before. However, instead of feeling scared or alarmed, all he felt was comfort. Almost like the voice of the girl he had met at the Maple Street Fair a few years ago. The one who had given him her ice cream. He would never forget her. And the calming sound of her voice. Strange. Excuse me. Might as well as take it. It could be useful someday, the voice advised him. Besides, how can you be absolutely sure that the new place you'll be going to is safe? Stretching an arm out, Cody accepted the bat from the lady. Sure, I guess I'll take it with me, too. Cody had always kept the bat with him, just in case he would ever need to use it as a weapon. In order to make it more effective, he had since driven old rusty nails into it when he was a teenager. Yet he never had the opportunity or reason to actually use it. Not until now. Whew, it seemed rather fitting to beat the thing's head in with the very item that he had used to torment Cody with all those years ago. The item that brought about what most likely was the worst beating of Cody's life. Screw science. He had given up science ever since Wine refused to be jealous over a subject, H4A. He just didn't want to accept it then, but now he was ready. He supposed that he was ready to accept that, and so much more, even though part of it did hurt. He guessed it always would hurt, in a way. The knowledge that in reality, he was truly alone. No one cared for him, or even wanted him, and in return, he wanted no one, as long as he had them, 17 and YN. They were all he needed. End it, Cody. Seventeen's voice boomed throughout the room, silence to all except the delusional man with the lethal bat. It was perfectly loud and clear to him, so loud, in fact, that it droned out the subject's shouts of pain and pleas for mercy. They weren't real to him. They didn't matter. Swinging the bat far behind him in order to gain momentum, Cody took a swing forward. The nail-embedded bat sank itself deep into the side of the subject's head, and Cody had to use both hands to yank the bat back out again. It took a few pulls for it to be pried loose, sending droplets of blood soaring through the air. The scream seemed fake to him, far off, distant, and a part of some other world. They weren't the screams that came from an actual human being laying on the floor before him, but the screams of a character from a movie or TV show at best. From time and time again, Cody swung, pounded, and beat the thing with his baseball bat, not even registering the elaborate pattern of his breathing as physical exertion began to take its toll. He didn't even notice the sweat pouring down his back or blood coating his face, arms, chest, and hands. Strangely enough, the germs and bacteria that he was logically aware was in the blood didn't faze him. All he could hear was the voice of 17, urging him to continue. That is, until his subject stopped moving. Then he heard something else. "Cody?" A soft, homey, and comforting voice called out. At the very sound, Cody sank to his knees, almost as he had just now noticed the way that his physical strength had ebbed away. The sound of footsteps greeted his ears next. The same soft sound that he heard on the other side of the basement door. He hoped whoever these footsteps belonged to, they wouldn't disappear again. He didn't want the voice to fade away. He wanted whoever it belonged to stay with him, forever and always, to grow and change with him, to keep a safeguard over his emotions. He needed it. A pair of arms wrapped around him, and he felt his head being pulled in as the person cradled him against her chest. She was clean. She was pure. The blood that coated him didn't stain her because she wasn't real. He muttered. A few tears fell out of his eyes at the final realization. I thought you were real. I thought you were real. Aww, that is so sad. Oh my gosh. That is really fucking sad, bro. Well, anyways, guys, my throat is like killing me right now, so I have to cut it a bit short. This series is sadly going to be coming close to an end pretty dang soon. So I don't know if there's going to be like 2 more videos or like 1 more last video about this. I'm just warning you about it now because I know this is a really good series. Personally, I love it. And all that. And I just want to like go a little bit out there because I'm kind of super proud and super happy that this happened. So basically the author to this story reached out to me and said like, thank you so much for reading my story. I really appreciate it. And all that, and I was so honored. Like, I don't know how honored I feel that I got reached out by the author of this story. Never felt more honored in my life. This story is really nice. It really surprised me in the end, like, straight up. We're a delusion. I honestly made up some theories, and that was part of my theories, that we were a delusion all along. And I kind of got confused with like the part where we actually interacted with people. That was just also a delusion. I was like, okay, that's actually really fucking cool. I never heard a story like that ever did this type of stuff. I also theorized that we were just from a different universe and we traveled somehow to another universe, and then we got to go back. But we are slowly but surely fading. That's what I thought, but I was wrong. Anywho, let me know what you guys thought what we actually were in the comments down below. Did you really think we were some type of ghost, we had a power or anything else other than these 2 theories? Let me know in the comments down below. Or if you just thought almost the same thing that I thought and your own theories are pretty similar to mine. Understandable, because I mean, to me, that was the closest thing that I could think of what was happening here. I'm glad 17 was able to answer all of her questions because I would have had a hell of a ton of questions. I'm glad he didn't just kind of push it away and left it to like be eaten by dust. So that's also good. And I'm also happy that finally Cody got his revenge against his dad. Not his dad, his stepdad. And I'm really happy about that. So I'm really happy about that. It's really sad to know that he is truly lonely. It is really sad to know that he is actually very fucking lonely. I hope maybe someday during the story he finds an actual real person to be friends with and to be happy with and not to feel so lonely, because I would never want to feel this lonely. And I feel so bad for him because he, to me, seems like a great guy. He seems like a great guy. Just a bit mentally unstable, who isn't, especially in these times. But yeah, I mean, it was really good. Oh my gosh, I'm really surprised though. I was like, what? He actually answered all the questions? What? And he also answered the questions of how we were able to develop our personality, internet access. That was literally because it was all delusionized, and it also because what else? Because we were kind of like in the background, so we could do whatever practically we wanted. And it's sad that we don't know who Jossy truly is, but she beat her boyfriend to death in that area. Can you believe that? That is crazy. Like, Jossy really beat her boyfriend to death, and I'm pretty sure she got away with it too. I'm pretty sure she got away with it. I'm like 90% sure she got away with it, which good for her, because we don't need a beautiful boyfriends around here. We don't need that. But yeah, I was kind of a little bit sad for us because, you know, we found out what we truly are, but at least we were given a purpose. You know, we were given a purpose because we didn't feel like we had a purpose, but now we know what our purpose is. And in the story, we're really happy about it. And I'm like, you know what? We chill with that. Chill with that. You know what? Whatever makes us happy. Right. But anyways, time to cut this a little short. I do hope you guys did enjoy this though. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. Also, some side notes going around. I recently did an update on Casper. He finally went to the vet. I had to kind of push it back a little because some complications happened, but he is fine for now. Like, currently, as I'm recording this, he should be better by the time you guys do see this post. He is he is not in the best shape right now because the vaccines, it takes a little bit of a toll on his body. He should be fine by Monday. Past the day, you might or might not see this, depending how long it takes me to edit this. But yeah, I really hope you guys did enjoy and everything. I personally enjoyed it. There will be some warnings going on, though. Definitely some warnings. So don't y'all worry about that. But anyways, sadly, your girl's gotta go. Bye and peace.